Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
And then they say, is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm like a smart person. Yosemite's one of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water.
Mike Lindell's a conspiracy.
Well, you haven't. Person, woman, man, camera, TV. They said nobody gets it in order. It's actually not that easy, but for me it was easy.
Amazing.
He can't sit down. He's got a burning in his butthole. He's got a fire. He's got a flame coming out of his butthole.
Big, massive dumps.
Oh, I have a term for that. I call it corporate communism.
Somebody sent me a thing this morning where they're talking about putting the vaccine into salad dressing.
You see, this is a simple meme that you would find on the internet, but this meme is very real.
You ain't seen nothing yet until you see the flaming butthole.
Putting us on our knees to China.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
There's insanity in the control room.
Who's got a hammer?
Out in the nation. Waldorf Nation. What up, everybody? Thursday. We got a good show for y'all today. So, did I see the Kristi Noem story? I did not. So I'm just gonna have to work on that. I'll have to look that up. But Kristi Noem's chief of staff compares trans athletes to terrorism. Jesus Christ. All right, so you know what? That's a story for tomorrow. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. Wow, what a disaster. But anyway, speaking of disaster, we've got plenty of fascinating stories as well for you here today. Now, look, those of you on the live show, I did not have a live show yesterday, but I had a bunch of videos up, including, of course, the interview with Lance, friend of the show, with the Surfs, and again, numerous other stories. I think I put out about 5 videos yesterday, so it's still kind of on average what I usually do. I just couldn't actually do anything live yesterday because I had some internet issues. But anyway, we're back. Got a good show for y'all. Fun times. We're going to talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene, as usual. We have some information about Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz. We got super spreader Sarah Palin, Candace Owens, in the new culture war issue over surprising Minnie Mouse. Or I should say, don't be surprised. We got Alabama cops who had set up a bit of a money-making scheme. And of course, we've got other stories as well. So let's move on. Let's get to the stories here. YouTube forgot to notify me. YouTube forgets to notify everybody of everything at all times, unless you are Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, or some weirdo right-wing channel. So, yeah. Anyway, so like I said, we're going to have a good show. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Engagement, very, very important. Or else, you know, the YouTube algorithm is going to be like, oh, nobody's interested in this content, so we're just going to, you know, we're just not going to recommend it to, like, anybody at all. All right, so anyway, let's do it. Let's jump into the stories. Let's start with Marjorie Taylor Greene. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene recently got an earful from one of her constituents.
Yes, I just want to say thank God for Joe Biden. She is an embarrassment to the state of Georgia.
Well, we all have our opinions.
Amen to that, and I've got mine.
All righty, thank you.
Thank God for Joe Biden. Well, you got y'all got your opinions. Yeah, we do got our opinions. And you're going to hear about them. And they're not good, at least when it comes to your guest. But hey, look, that's totally fine. That's totally fine. I think, you know what? I actually give credit to those hosts, right? Because they obviously disagreed and actually, we're kind of coming to the defense of their guest a little bit. Like, oh, hey, that's your opinion. That's totally fine. It's an opinion show. Great. I'm glad they didn't cut the call off or shut him down. And also, we got to see Marjorie Taylor Greene's face as she was very, very uncomfortable, you could see. And actually, the discomfort for Marjorie Taylor Greene continues because there was another critical caller. Let's hear that.
We accepted Trump for 4 years. You all refused to accept Biden. You refused to do it. And maybe we didn't like Trump, but he won, and so that was it. You all are not, you will not accept the fact that Joe Biden won. And that is the whole thing. You're not going to accept it. You're going to keep on and just peck. Yeah, and you won't get anything done. If you're not going to respect the man and realize that he's the president, you're not ever going to get anything done. You've got to work together. And you are not doing it. You're not doing it. And neither are the other Republicans. They're just going with Trump. No, he didn't win it. He didn't win it. And wasted all the money in Georgia to have to count the votes 3 times because he said he won and he didn't.
Oh, the Schadenfreude. It's so good. So good. And by the way, it's great because you can see just the impotent rage in her face with the awkward smile, like, God, I can't say anything. Oh, why can't I say anything? It's the communists. That's what's going on. It's the communism. Now, look, so obviously, I love everything about this. This is fantastic to watch. And look, the caller made some great points, but I'm actually going to push back a little bit on one thing. And so, look, yes, Republicans pick, and they're like, Joe Biden's not the legitimate president, right? Well, I do remember, and this is just in the spirit of fairness, but also to actually make a good comparison that really proves this caller's point. And so you all remember the not my president, right? So there's a contingent, of course, of Hillary Clinton voters that were like, Donald Trump's not my president. Now, that's a rhetorical thing, obviously. And it was a rhetorical cry for people that were so outraged and really surprised and shocked that Donald Trump could be president. So now, look, in that election, I actually wasn't surprised to see Donald Trump actually winning this election in 2016. We saw it coming. The mainstream media did not see it coming, and most of the establishment voters also did not see this coming. And so they're like, oh my God, not my president, right? But now, again, that's very, very different than what the Republican Party has been doing. For one, the people that were saying not my president when it came to Trump were not also out there saying voter fraud. They weren't saying voter fraud. But then some of you might bring up, but Russia. It's the Russians. Well, the Russians didn't change the votes, and nobody was claiming that the Russians had changed the votes. In fact, we do have ample evidence, however, that they did run an online disinformation campaign. Now, that disinformation campaign was aimed at trying to discourage people from voting for Hillary Clinton. So now in order to do that, they created troll farms, they ran ads, they bought ads everywhere, they released emails to WikiLeaks, allegedly, which played on Clinton's massive unpopularity. And now that didn't work in 2020 when it came to Joe Biden, because Joe Biden actually, unlike Hillary Clinton, had a much higher approval rating. People liked him way more than they liked Hillary Clinton. And plus, not only that, but again, Joe Biden served as Obama's VP. Obama is one of the most favorable Democrats. Democrats absolutely love Obama. Now, that kind of frustrates me a little bit because I don't think Obama did that great of a job. I think he was very, very centrist, very establishment. There was not really, in my opinion, a whole lot of hope and change under that, okay? But nonetheless, it also didn't work on Joe Biden because Trump bungled the hell out of COVID. And so people wanted a change. They wanted somebody who was actually, I don't know, knew what the hell that they were doing, or at least they appeared to know what the hell they're doing. Now, I would also say that Biden's coronavirus response also wasn't great. And I've had criticisms of that, but certainly it did seem to be better than Trump. That said, the Russia argument and not my president, they're not the same at all. Not compared to what Republicans have done. Again, Republicans, including Marjorie Taylor Greene and the rest of the Sedition Caucus, they took this idea of alleged mass voter fraud, which they can't prove, right? And so, nonetheless, they repeat it, they did the propaganda ad nauseum, and they convinced their followers to believe it as well. And then they used that belief and the propaganda in order to attempt to steal an election via, for example, fake electors, to try to pressure Mike Pence into not certifying the election, and then literally sending fake electors instead of the real electors to vote for Trump, when it comes to the Electoral College vote. And so obviously we know all of that. Now, not only that, but Republicans also have used that big lie to try to push massive amounts of voter suppression laws. I think since 2021, or in 2021 alone, you had, I believe, 33 different voter ID or voter suppression laws passed in 19 different states. While some states, more blue states, actually tried to expand their voting, you had a lot of states, especially where it could be a swing state, you had Republicans doing everything they could to try to restrict voting, especially when it comes to minority areas. And so that is, in my opinion, an attempt to sway or steal an election. So anyway, and again, I bring that up because, again, there is a good comparison to make that actually makes her arguments much, much stronger, and her disdain against the Republican Party and what they're doing that much more effective. Now, that said, the caller also absolutely correct. They're not letting it go. And it's actually really, really good to see Georgia voters actually being able to tell her how they really feel. Again, she's been an incredibly, when it comes to legislation, she's been an incredibly ineffective legislator. She hasn't done anything for the people of Georgia. And she can't. She literally has been kicked off all of her committees and does no work. That's why you see her all around. She goes from show to show to show to show to show and doesn't do anything because she's not on any committees. She was stripped of all of her committee assignments, and now she just has all this time to go around and troll everybody. Well, at least in this case, she was a captive audience and got an earful, and that was good. Now, that said, I'm sure she got some other calls too that were like, oh, let's go Brandon. But that said, credit to the show and the host of the show, which I probably don't agree with politically, that we're allowing these calls to go through and allowing people either good or for or against to be able to express their opinion. So cookies for you. That's a good thing. Okay. Moving on. Go to Matt Gaetz. things might have just taken a turn for the worst for Representative Matt Gaetz, who is currently in the middle of a trafficking scandal. Now, the Daily Beast is now reporting that a cooperating witness might actually be able to confirm the existence of a damning phone call between Joel Greenberg and Matt Gaetz. This phone call could prove the allegations that Gaetz had known that he had indeed been trafficking and having relations with a minor. So, not good. Now, two sources claim that a witness was actually in the room when said alleged call took place. That witness has been identified as Big Joe Ellicott. So now, Big Joe Ellicott is an employee, or maybe was, I don't know, his current employment status. He's in a little bit of trouble. But he was a Seminole County, an employee at the Seminole County Tax Office, and Joel Greenberg's longtime best friend. Now, Joel Greenberg had recently pleaded guilty to fraud and drug charges as part of a cooperation agreement with federal prosecutors. So let me get into more details about this. Now, according to two people briefed in the matter, Greenberg allegedly made a fairly short phone call to Gaetz on September 4th. Of 2017. So now this phone call is believed to have been a warning from Greenberg to Matt Gaetz, telling him, don't mess with this girl. This young girl that you have been seeing, turns out she's a little too young. She was not the legal age of consent. And so now the sources couldn't say whether Ellicott had discussed the call with the investigators, but they do claim that his account for being in the room and listening to the phone call could be of critical interest to the investigation, especially since it would match a key claim that Greenberg himself had made in a confession letter that is now in the hands of federal agents. Now, in the letter, Greenberg wrote after his indictment in late 2020 as part of an effort to beg Trump for a presidential pardon. Greenberg claimed that he, Gaetz, and others had sex with a minor they believed to be 19 at the time. And again, there's a lot of evidence that not only was she a minor at the time, was she actually a minor at the time, but she had also been flown across state lines. And so that's what makes it a sex trafficking case. Now, Greenberg first learned that she had been underage after receiving an anonymous tip on September 4th, 2017. He then confirmed her age by using the official Florida State Driver's License database. So that is something that he should have access to, but for work. Now, he's using it for personal reasons. And so that's why I question, like, oh, the guy could probably lose his job or has most likely lost his job as a result of this, because you're not supposed to use that database of people to dig up information on others for personal reasons. And so, again, there's that massive invasion of privacy that you have here. So now, on that date, he confirmed her age by using that database, and then afterwards called Matt Gaetz. He said, quote, in this confession, I immediately called the congressman and warned him to stay clear of this person and informed him she was underage, Greenberg wrote in a handwritten draft of the letter, adding that Gaetz was equally shocked and disturbed by this revelation. No kidding. There was no further contact with this individual until after her 18th birthday, he added. Now there's more. As the Daily Beast reports, they found another additional detail from Greenberg's plea agreement, a timestamp. So this timestamp of is when Greenberg had allegedly accessed the DMV database to look up the girl's age, which happened to be on September 4th, 2017, at approximately 1:29 p.m. So now investigators are looking at Ellicott to try to tie those two pieces of information together. Now, again, a little synopsis, right? Greenberg gets the tip, looks up her information, calls up Gaetz. and then tells him, you got to stop seeing this girl. And apparently Ellicott was in the room to hear that phone call to corroborate what had happened. So now we don't know if he has talked to investigators. Right now, we don't have that information. But if he did, or if he is willing to, they could confirm that and then go and look at Greenberg or Gaetz' own phone records and determine whether or not Greenberg had made that call immediately after accessing the database. Because again, it's not just like, oh, there was a call. First there was access and then there was a call. But we don't know what's in the, since we only had the metadata, or you would potentially have the metadata, you don't actually know what the conversation was about. It could be something completely different, or it could be that warning. And so that's why we need Ellicott's corroboration of what had happened. And so if you have that corroboration, where you have Ellicott saying, oh yeah, I did overhear this call, and it was Greenberg warning Gaetz, stop seeing this girl, she is definitely underage. Well, that's pretty damning, and it really makes that case. Now, it would also, by the way, obliterate his defense. Now, Matt Gaetz has been out there since this investigation had started, since the scandal had broken. He would say, oh no, this is a lie. People are just trying to blackmail me or extort me or my father. And so, the total fake news, this didn't actually happen. Now, afterwards, it actually morphed to, okay, so yes, I was seeing this girl, but I didn't know she was 17. She was 19. She told me she was 19. I didn't know. I had no idea that, when I was seeing her. And then as soon as I found out, I stopped seeing her. Well, now also, that ends his defense for that as well. Because 8 months after the alleged warning, he had been sending her money. The congressman had Venmo'd Greenberg $900 in 2 different back-to-back payments, writing in one memo to, quote, hit up blank, using the nickname for the girl. And by that time, she was 5 months past her 18th birthday. Which now, of course, makes it only creepy instead of creepy and illegal, as Gaetz had turned 36 earlier that week. And so that's, right now, that's not good for Mr. Gaetz. Things aren't looking good. And if they get that, again, if this guy talks to investigators and corroborates the story, well, that's it. We might be saying, down goes Matt Gaetz. Oh, that'd be a good day. Real good day. All right, let's go to Super Spreader Palin. We don't have laws against being creepy. That's true. That is true. All right. Recently, Sarah Palin was caught having a fun night out on the Manhattan Upper East Side. So now this is why she's, of course, while she's waiting for a defamation suit against the New York Times. So normally, I don't care. This wouldn't be a story. However, she just happened to have been enjoying dinner just 2 days after testing positive for COVID-19. On Monday, an attorney for Palin had announced that the former Alaska governor had tested positive for coronavirus, prompting that defamation suit against the New York Times to be delayed. So now that's why she's in New York. So I guess if you don't have anything to do in New York, well, what do you do? Apparently, you do this. Those are pictures from Mediaite of her just, enjoying a nice dinner while having COVID. No mask, no mask, nothing like that. No safety measures. But she's outside in a heated area, outdoors. So I guess it's okay, right? No, that's not okay. That's not okay at all. So again, not only was she there on Wednesday when that picture was taken, but she actually came back and ate indoors on Saturday. That's 5 days after her diagnosis. So now, that's the thing. She should not have been let in, because not only was she COVID positive, but very, very publicly unvaccinated. Now, New York has a vaccine mandate for restaurants, and basically requires restaurants to verify the vaccination status if you're going to do indoor dining, right? And so Palin famously not vaccinated. In fact, here's what she said about vaccination.
It'll be over my dead body that I'll have to get a shot. I will not do it. I won't do it, and they better not touch my kids either, because that's where you need to all look around and realize that as you stiffen your spine and take those positions that are right, especially when it comes to government telling us what we have to inject in our own bodies. Realize that those around you, as you stiffen your spine, their spines too will stiffen.
I mean, we gotta stiff the spine, because if you stiff your spine, you're gonna give a stiffy to everybody else's spine, and then we're all gonna be walking around with stiffy spines. Hey, Charlie, are you paying attention, Charlie? Oh my God. I maybe it's just me, but I could swear that Charlie Kirk, I could see it on his tiny face. What is she talking about? Oh my God, if I made a mistake, she really is a moron. Wow. I mean, again, it's Sarah Palin. I doubt if she even knows what she's talking about. All right, so now again, I bring up this story because not only was she COVID positive with Omicron, which is highly contagious. Again, she's not vaccinated. She didn't isolate herself. She doesn't have a mask. She didn't follow any of the rules. Now, again, we're pretty mad because she can get away with the with breaking the rules, but we can't. That's insanity. That's not right at all. Now, I know there are still people out there that are saying, well, who cares? Who cares? Oh my God. Well, what about the people who are serving her? I'm pretty sure they don't want to get COVID. All right. And so that's what frustrates me. We have a double standard. And not just that, but look, here's the thing. Remember when AOC dined out? Remember when, they took pictures of her when she was in Florida, and she was dining outside without a mask. Conservatives threw a fit. Now, the thing about that is she did not have COVID, for one, fully vaccinated, and yes, was outside. Now, this is different. Sarah Palin, no mask, still, yes, outside, but no vax, and COVID positive. And yet, when you bring that out, the response is, oh, who cares? Sarah Palin, who cares? No, AOC, the real problem. It's just ridiculous. And again, the city is not doing anything about it, of course. As some of you point out, New York's been incredibly lax about this. In fact, Elio's, which is the restaurant that she was at, declined to investigate Palin, the city declined to investigate Elio's for allowing the unvaccinated Palin to dine there. A spokesperson reached out to mediate with a statement from Elio's manager, Luca Guiatolini, who said that Palin had came to the restaurant later on to apologize. Tonight, Sarah Palin returned to the restaurant to apologize for the fracas around her previous visit. In accordance with the vaccine mandate and to protect our staff, we seated her outdoors. Now, adding that we are a restaurant open to the public and we treat all civilians the same. Apparently not. Again, she wasn't vaccinated. She didn't follow any of the rules or recommendations. You let her in anyway. And there's going to be absolutely no consequences for this. nothing. Because if you're a right-winger, you get away with everything. But if you're on the left, well, then Fox News will not, will get mad at you anyway, even if you did nothing wrong, and will invent a reason to be angry. It's absolutely maddening when it comes to the double standards. All right. We're going to go to Candace Owens. Oh boy. We got a new culture war item dropping. All right. Conservatives have been melting down over the newest culture war issue, which is brands changing their mascots or updating them. So now after Tucker Carlson, unlike the chocolate candies that he was critiquing, melted down over a less sexy M&M, Candace Owens decided that she was going to weigh in on Minnie Mouse. As the Wrap reported, the iconic character is no longer going to be wearing a dress, but will instead adorn a pantsuit at Disneyland Paris. Take a look.
Disney is totally changing Minnie Mouse. Disney is putting Minnie Mouse in a pantsuit. That's right. They're getting rid of the skirt, and this is Disney Paris or something like that. And I thought, who better to ask about this than Candace Owens? Your reaction. Why are they doing this?
Oh, I'm just so glad. I'm so glad they're doing this. Let me just tell you, Jesse, it goes back to like when they did this to the M&Ms, and now they're making her more masculine. And I'm glad that they're now realizing that this needed to be addressed. All of us were traumatized when we saw Minnie Mouse and she was looking like a female as we were growing up. I mean, look, this is why people don't take these people seriously. They're taking all of these things that nobody was offended by. It's like they have to get rid of them and destroy them because they're bored. They're absolutely bored. They're trying to destroy fabrics of our society and pretending that there's issues. So everybody looks over here. Look at Minnie Mouse. Don't look at inflation, Jesse. Look at Minnie Mouse. The world is going forward because you've got her in a pantsuit. Never mind that you can't get anything at the grocery store and you can't buy a piece of bacon unless you've got $30 in your pocket. At least we're addressing the real problem, which is Minnie Mouse.
That's right. That's right. They're bored out of their minds.
You know what made me bored out of my mind? Watching that video. Dear God. So, look, there was so much nonsense in there, but there actually is one point that I will agree with. Nobody was offended by Minnie Mouse in a dress or a skirt or whatever. Nobody was offended by M&Ms the way they were before. All this is manufactured outrage over brands doing an update on their characters. Obviously, Candace Owens, way off. It's ridiculous, right? And so they're not doing this for any of the weirdo culture war issues that she claims. Like there's no massive amount of people that were upset or offended by Minnie Mouse. No, here's the thing. Here's the reason the brands are changing things, right? They want to appeal to younger people. Why? Well, obvious, candy and Disney. This is all about marketing. It's all about money. Now, younger people are more socially progressive. All right. So they don't get offended, for example, by the existence of trans or non-binary people, right? And so what these brands are doing is they think, hey, if we change our characters, or if we update them to what we believe or what our focus group or what our board, thinks is like based or cool, whatever, whatever, well, then we can increase our sales. Now, that's not necessarily how it works. There's actually a lot better ways that you could probably do marketing. Or you could just, stop being like a terrible company, for one. That would be great. But all right, they think this is going to increase their sales, and that's why they're doing this. That's it. Nobody asked for this. Nobody asked for it. No younger people really cared about it. We just don't care. Now, the people that care so much about it, They're the right wing. They're super excited every time this happens. They look at this and they go, oh my God, yes, outrage, yummy in my tummy, let's do this. Yes, we're going to make this into a culture war issue. And actually, ironically, we're going to do exactly what Candace Owens is projecting. We're going to use this as a distraction. That's it. Hey, you know why there's inflation, Candace? COVID. I mean, that's one of the major reasons, right? The Republican Party has prolonged COVID by not being vaccinated, refusing to be vaccinated. Candace Owens is one of those people that has told people not to get the vaccine. Why? Because she wants to make money by selling colloidal silver on her website. That's it. She's selling nonsense to her gullible fans instead of promoting vaccination, which actually would work to put an end to the pandemic that she is so upset about. Now, of course, there's another reason for inflation, corporate greed. Corporate greed is another big reason, right? So these companies, yes, they've seen an increase in some of their prices, and they have passed a lot of it on to us because of the supply chain. But then there's also been reports where companies will not just take the cost and pass it down from their increased costs, but they'll add something on top of it. Up to 50% more cost added on so that they could make even more profit. And that's what they're doing. So, for example, Kroger, look, here's the thing. These companies, by the way, have made billions of dollars in additional revenue during the pandemic. Kroger had $132 billion in revenue. And the average salary, and this is in 2020, their top executives increased their average salary. You know what happened to the median employee? Their salaries, their pay decreased by 8%. They took a pay cut. Then all of these corporations, these executives, made even more money. They got richer. Plus, they have a gigantic infusion of government money, of government funding. And a lot of them still cut jobs. They bought back their own stocks. They inflated their stock prices. Plus, they used inflation as an excuse to raise their prices even more. It's all a scam. By the way, has she talked about this? Has Candace Owens addressed corporate greed? No, it's all about woke corporations. That's what it is. Woke corporations. That's a real problem. Is she talking about how how wages haven't kept up with inflation? How the federal minimum wage is still $7.25 federally? How, again, even in places that have raised their minimum wage to, 10, 11, 12 bucks an hour, all of that, any gain has been wiped out by the 6.8% of inflation. Everything's more expensive, and she's not talking about the reasons why. She's just saying, Biden bad. Also, look at this woke Minnie. It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. The real rot of our society isn't woke culture. It's corporate greed and capture of the government. That's what it is. The government is not enacting policies that would improve the material conditions of regular working people's lives. And so, yeah, she's right. There is a distraction going on. There is a distraction. It's just not by Disney. Disney, again, they didn't make a big deal about this. Nobody made a big deal about this until Fox News got a hold of it. Conservative media, all they do is fixate on these issues, on these culture war issues, as nobody tackles the real reason these prices go up. And by the way, while conservatives rail against very policies, for example, Build Back Better, that would have actually done something to help alleviate the pain that Americans are feeling right now. Child tax credit, gone. Help for, people's health care bills, gone. Child care, paid leave, gone, not in there. Never going to pass. They're never going to get by Republicans. And so why don't they talk about that? Oh, right. Because they're on the side of these greedy corporations and the politicians that they have bought. So that said, I do have to say, there's one thing that I'm actually really thankful for, and that is a resurgence of labor. There have been some very significant labor victories that have forced some of these companies to do right by their workers. Labor power. But it's no thanks to people like Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, or any of these other culture warriors on the right who get rich off distracting people and putting out nonsense. Okay. Outrage over a cartoon mouse wearing cartoon pants. By the way, it's not even, it's in Paris. It's not even in the United States. So again, it doesn't even make sense why they're getting mad about it here. All right. Go to Ron Johnson. Fox News running, Fox viewers running around in miniskirts to own the French. Pretty sure a lot of the Fox hosts are, though. I don't know about the viewers. It's all the game of politics, says Sue Sullivan on Facebook. Stifle Biden's agenda. It's the name of the game, and Dems need to learn how to play it. Dems are terrible at politics. Whether it be on purpose or they're just that bad, I don't really know. Whoop. All right. Senator Ron Johnson doesn't think that you should have help paying for childcare. Because your kids, they're just not his problem.
People decide to have families and become parents. That's something, you know, they need to consider when they make that choice. I've never really felt it was society's responsibility to take care of other people's children.
I mean, you know, people decide to be parents, and so I guess, you know, it's just not my job to help you with childcare, you know, because you made that choice. That's your problem. Also, I'm running to try to ban abortion, so that's not going to be your choice if you become a parent. Well, nah, though that's interesting. That's very interesting. So, you know, what's also interesting? All throughout human history, community actually played a gigantic role in caring for children. That's traditionally, right? So now in this, of course, corporate world where it's very, very individualistic, you don't have that anymore. You just have the little family unit, you know, 2 parents and the kid or kids, and you're expected to handle that entire workload by yourself plus the costs. Wonderful. Now that doesn't actually work out very well in a lot of cases. But again, that's where we get the it takes a village. But apparently Ron Johnson, well, he's the village idiot because he doesn't realize that it turns out that childcare is actually hugely beneficial, not just to parents, but also to the economy overall. And so, again, this is literally an investment into people that bears returns. For one, it allows families to have dual incomes, which in this case, in this day and age, that's necessary for survival. You have to have a 2-parent, 2-income household in order to survive. It just costs too much not to. And so, by the way, that also helps people find their way up into the middle class. I know it's incredibly difficult to do nowadays, but it is still possible if you have support, if you have things like childcare. And by the way, these programs keep families out of poverty, which keeps families together. It's one of the big reasons that There's a lot of divorce, a lot of, families breaking up. Financial issues. Now, I thought conservatives actually cared about the family. That's what they claim to say. They claim to care. But apparently they don't. They don't care about the family unit at all. Because while they say one thing, they oppose family-friendly policies that would actually encourage families. And by the way, not only do they try to block any family-friendly policies like the child tax credit, they also pass policy that is very hostile to the development of families. And as a result, a lot of people in this country can't afford to have families. Look, the American dream, you all know it, right? You buy a nice house, you have a nice little picket fence, and you got the 2.5 kids and the dog. That's dead. That American dream is dead. It is fake. It is fiction. It doesn't exist. It hasn't existed for a very long time. If, for some groups, it's never existed at all. And so it shouldn't be a surprise that people that are younger in their 20s and 30s are not having families. They're having fewer children and are not creating families. Why? Again, it's because it's too expensive. You can't do it. In fact, nearly 3 in 5 millennials without kids have said that they will not have a family because they don't have the money. They can't afford it. But there's also, of course, problems with work-life balance. You don't have any paid time off to actually spend time with the family. You have other factors like the concerns in the climate change. And of course, there are more people who just don't want kids. They'd rather focus on their career. All of that is totally fine if you want to make that choice. But at least we got to have the choice. People like Ron Johnson don't care. They don't want you to have that choice. So now here's the thing. Democrats tried to address some of the systemic issues. I think they could do far more. However, the bill, Build Back Better, is dead. Now, if it had survived, it would have given eligible families subsidies to buy childcare. That would have been huge. The bill also would have extended and expanded the child tax credit, which expired in December and actually raised about 50% of children in poverty out of poverty. That would have helped a great deal. And it only would have been a start. But you know who opposed that? Every single Republican, including Ron Johnson. And of course, you had the two supposed Democrats, Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin. That's why it's dead. Another thing Ron Johnson and all the other pro-family Republicans hate, because again, I say that they call themselves pro-family because you always hear them lamenting about the end of the traditional family, the nuclear family. What's going on in this country? There's a real big problem with not having enough children. They got to get the families, and you got to get married, and you got to have the family, and these kids are just not doing it. It must be the avocado toast and the cell phones. That must be it. It must be the gay. That's why they're not having kids and having families. No, there's a lot of different reasons, as I pointed out. But immigration, and the reason I bring that up, because you might be wondering, what does immigration have to do with family sizes in this country or pro-family policy? Well, it turns out immigrants have historically had more children and families on average than people born in this country. Interesting. So now if you're worried that, we're just not having enough families, and by the way, it is important to have younger people take over in the workplace. And so you've got to have more of a generation to follow you, not only, and I'm not really concerned about the continuation of the human race right now, because there's 7, almost 8 billion of us. I think we're doing okay in numbers. But as far as in our country, birth rates, not very good, right? And you can point out it's kind of stagnant. And what you need is that, birth rate to be stable at least in order to replace workers as other people age out. And then support systems like Social Security and Medicare. And so that's pretty important. Well, again, conservatives, they say they're pro-family, but they're not in favor of pro-family policy at all. They're in favor of pro-corporate policy, which is notoriously anti-family. And so again, their immigration policy also reflects that because they have a much more restrictive immigration policy. And so you have less immigrants coming in, first generation immigrants who generally have more children to replenish those workforces. So I don't know. They really cut them shot themselves in the foot on this one. But again, in their addled brains, they think immigration and they think, well, that means more brown people. Now, that's not always the case, too. Immigrants come from all over the world. But they think immigration, think brown people. Well, we hate brown people. Well, we don't want them in the country. We don't want the browning of America. No, we can't have that. More restrictive. More restrictive. So it's funny to see them screech about, why aren't you having kids? Why aren't you having children? And on the other hand, they say, hey, you had children. Well, that's not our concern. We're not going to help you at all if you have a family. Oh, social programs to help children? Oh, no, that's not our problem. That's not our problem at all. Well, if you can't see the contradiction here, well then, I don't know what to tell you. It's sort of the same thing between calling themselves pro-freedom and pro-life. No, they're not pro-freedom if you're trying to ban all abortions. And you're certainly not pro-life if you're out there supporting the death penalty, as well as, heinous things that we have seen, like allowing people to run over protesters. And of course, supporting the police state that generally is pretty awful to people, people of color. And not only that, but you can't really claim yourself to be pro-life if you're railing against life-saving vaccines and medicine. Okay. Moving on. One more story here, and it's a police story. Fun. Everything is contradictory. When it comes to Republicans, absolutely. If you're critical of police and happen to live in Alabama, you might want to be careful what you post on social media, because if we've seen, the cops will be coming for you. So now this is according to a damning report from AL.com. They found that an Alabama police department was found monitoring social media posts for critics and then targeting them with harassment and threats. So now, wait a minute. This is on social media. How can they do this? Don't you have something called the First Amendment? The thing that protects you against police for coming after you for having an opinion online, even if it's a negative opinion of police. Apparently, the Brookside Police Chief Mike Jones had no idea what the First Amendment was. It's funny because he's supposed to be a police officer or a police chief, but more likely, of course, he didn't care and was actually trying to protect his racket. Now, let me get to the details of the report to explain what I'm talking about. So now, in this report, AL.com cited numerous accounts of harassment, intimidation by officers, and retaliation against critics of the police and their ticketing policies. So look, this police department had been going on a massive ticketing spree. And I'll give you the numbers of that later on, because it's really amazing how much money they extorted, especially from such a small town. So now first, before we go to that, let me give you an example of the kind of harassment that people had faced. Now, one of them was Michelle Jones. So now she had filed a complaint against the department back in 2019. She was caught up in a fraudulent ticket scheme, right? So now police had claimed that she had ran a stop sign. She did not. So she fought the ticket. After, of course, paying the fine, she spoke out against, like, hey, I didn't actually do this. This was BS. I didn't run the stop sign. In fact, the place where I was alleged to have run a stop sign wasn't even in the jurisdiction of Brookside. But I got a ticket anyway. And so after she had complained about that, She said that a person had contacted her and threatened her with arrest. So here's what they told her. That they were going to arrest her if she did not take down her Facebook pictures and posts of Brookside's police officers, stop sending emails to local politicians, asking them to investigate and stop this racket, as well as others, and show them that Brookside police, that I understand law enforcement practices. Oh, so you pleb, you normal person, you civilian, you don't understand. You understand practices of the police. We know more than you. And we say that you break the law and that you got to get punished for it. Again, Jones was ticketed in May of 2019 and insists that she had not run a stop sign, and also claims that the incident happened outside the jurisdiction, but still paid that $160 fine, which is a lot of money for a lot of people. Now, afterwards, she began complaining to public officials, a local TV station, and also Jones, who defended the stop outside of town. When she began complaining to officials, Jones defended the stop, by saying that, no, it was a completely illegal thing to do. For me to stop you, it was a correct call. You were in the wrong. I was in the right. Go ahead and complain. Go ahead and complain. And if you keep complaining, well, we're going to come after you. Now, the situation escalated after she had warned about a police trap. She said, Detective Johnson had called me and asked that I come to the Brookside Police Department to talk to them. She told the Attorney General's office. After I told him that I would not, he reported that they have 2 warrants for my arrest. He stated that I issued threats and incited a riot and slandered the Brookside Police Department in my Facebook posts. He reported that his police chief was mad. Oh, he was mad. Oh, he was mad. Oh, he caught feelings from your social media posts, calling out your bullshit. Again, First Amendment, she's absolutely right to criticize them. We're supposed to have freedom of speech. Total bullshit. There's more details. According to the newspaper and the investigation, others have reported similar experiences, including Alabama Senate candidate Lisa Ward, who said Jones tried to intimidate her after sharing a report on the department's ticketing practices on Facebook. And a Brookside man told AL.com that he was pulled over again a couple of days after complaining on Facebook about his own ticket for running a stop sign, allegedly. The chief's pretty upset about that post you put on Facebook, the man said an officer had told him. Any more backlash like that towards this police department, and it'll be far worse than a ticket. So right there, that's a threat. The man, who did not want to have his name published because he fears retaliation, said he was in quote-unquote pure shock. I just stared at him. I was looking at him like, so this is what this stop is about? Well, I mean, of course. How dare you? You hurt an officer's fifis. He is very, very upset with you. No, what he's upset about is people talking badly and exposing his money-making scheme. This is amazing. According to the report, even though there's just 6 miles of road in town, this is an incredibly tiny town of about 1,200 residents. And yet, this police department had collected over $600,000 in fines and forfeitures in 1 year alone. A town of 1,200, the police department got $600,000. Holy shit. You know how many cars they had patrolling? 10. They had 10 vehicles patrolling 6 miles of road, trying to catch everybody for tiny little or even made up offenses. There were so many tickets that were given out that on days when municipal court is held, the roads and the parking lots were filled with people going to pay their tickets. They had to have police direct traffic around those places. So busy. I mean, that's just absolutely insane. Now, the city, as a result of this, and this is excellent journalism, by the way, the city faces now at least 5 federal lawsuits from its policing, and officials are even asking for the Justice Department and the state attorneys general to get involved. Now, all the attention, by the way, from all of this has led to Jones resigning from his position. You know what that tells me? That tells me dude knows he's guilty. He knows exactly what he did wrong. He knows what he did to the community that he was supposed to be in charge of the safety of. He used them, extorted them to fill his department coffers. Incredibly gross. Incredibly gross. So look, he has resigned. That doesn't mean that this should be over. No, there needs to be consequences. There needs to be accountability for all of this. And of course, restitution for this town that has been terrorized by these corrupt cops. If anything, you know, if anything wants to make you go, say ACAB, it's this. Absolute corruption. It has to stop. All right. That's it. That's all I got for you today. Thank you for growing around the nation with me. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Very important that you do so. Depressed Progressive, thank you for resubbing for a month at Tier 1. Appreciate that. On Twitch, you can do so a couple different ways. Actually, you can use your Amazon Prime sub and help us out that way. You can always gift a sub, or you can send bits. I haven't seen a hype trade in a long time. I missed them. I missed the hype. You can also go to our Patreon, patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. If you can do that, you can sign up and avoid giving anyone else, except I guess for Patreon, a cut of the money. But you know what? Not a bad return. And let's see. Let's go to thank some super chats. Read some of those as well from you all. Let me just get there real quick. And let's see. From today. Here we go. Matt Gaetz lands in the camp of mental maturity. Is mature enough? I sound like a broken record, but my God, the Venn diagram is a solid filled circle, says Danko Bango. And also adding, Enway is lax because of a Republican mayor, Eric Adams. True. Unfortunately. Did Owens confess to crushing on Minnie? I don't know. Let's see. Michael Norris, with a very kind donation as well, says Candace Owens, Minnie Mouse no longer looks like a woman because she's wearing a pantsuit instead of a dress. Ultimate case of projection, she said as she's wearing a pantsuit. Touche. Very good point. Koru, thank you for the very kind $10. And Monty Darno says, Biden will be sending $2 to Popo Dangle Bangle. Okay. All right, so there's all the super chats. Thank you very much for the kind donations, for watching the show. Really, really appreciate it, and appreciate all of you as well. Again, give us a like and share, and come back. We'll have a show tomorrow. Same time, same place, 4 p.m. Eastern, right here, Waldorf Nation. Let me see who we're going to rate on Twitch, by the way, real quick. So, Twitch viewers, stick around. We're going to watch reactions. So, with the wonderful Ravana. So, everybody check her out. She's pretty awesome. All right. Thank you all. Love you. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. See you all tomorrow.
Beta male.
Mike Pence.
Please clap. You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.